Welcome to today's daily quiz session with us. Before we begin analyzing today's questions, I would like to remind you about an important initiative that comes in the form of a Google form that has been pinned in the description box of today's video. Now kindly fill up the form in case you are looking for expert guidance for the upcoming UPSC Civil Services exam. Once we have your details, we will get in touch with you and arrange a one-on-one counseling session for you from our experts. Now this could be your big step towards clearing UPSC Prelims and Mains at first shot. Now with this, let's come to today's question answer agenda. And the first question on your screen talks about ISRO. It's in reference with space missions. But why has this question been taken for analysis? There has been a news piece in the Hindu and Economic Times that deals with science and technology. It says that Indian Space Research Organization is all ready to launch its insat 3DS meteorological satellite, and this is going to happen in just the coming week. The purpose is to do better monitoring of ocean surface, land surface, measure the verticals of temperature and humidity. In all, for better weather forecasting, for better disaster management. And in this light, the question here talks about which of the following is the first in the series of exclusive meteorological satellites built by ISRO. Option number A says XPOSAT, that stands for X-ray polarimeter satellite. B, INSAT. C, EduSat. And D, Kalpana 1. Well, here the answer is D, Kalpana 1. In fact, Kalpana 1 was initially referred to as MetSat 1. It was launched back in 2002 for the purpose of doing meteorological investigation, enhanced meteorological study by the ISRO. It was much later, during the regime of Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that the name was kept as Kalpana 1 to honor India's astronaut Kalpana Chawla. So here D is the correct answer, because if you talk about option A, an XPOSAT, then let's remember that XPOSAT was actually India's pioneering, one of its own kind, polarimetry mission. The purpose was to study different dynamics or different aspects of astronomical sources, objects in extreme conditions. In fact, this was one of its own kind, only the second in the world polarimetry mission to be using X-ray imaging, right after NASA's IXPE back in 2021. And hence, it is a very critical polarimetry satellite of India, but nothing to do with meteorology, nothing to do with weather. B talks about INSAT. Now this is a very common name because INSAT stands for Indian National Satellite System. The purpose? It stands out as being largest domestic communication satellite in the entire Asia Pacific region. And now coming to EduSat. Well, the name is suggestive enough. EduSat is the education satellite. The purpose was to create distant learning programs for both rural and urban India. So clearly here, talking about weather and meteorology, the answer is D. And now we can hop on to the second question of the day that talks about zoonosis. Once again, all over the news in the recent few years, ever since the COVID pandemic in particular. But why has this question been picked up for today's analysis? The reason is a very shocking piece of news from the Hindu, again pertaining to health science segment. It says after Karnataka, now it is Kerala's turn to be cautious to be worried about the rapidly rising cases of what's known as monkey fever. Yes, now the forested and the highly vegetated areas of Wayanad have come under scanner because the government is asking people to take utmost precautions before entering these biosphere areas, national park areas which are forested. Because most of the times, monkey fever is attributed to thick vegetation. What is this monkey fever? Now, talking about monkey fever, do remember, sometimes it is also referred to as KFD. Why KFD? Because initially it was noted in an area of Karnataka known as Shivamoga, and hence the name Kaisanur. Forest disease. It comes as a viral infection and it is attributed to bites of infected ticks. In this light, in the following question, we have three statements, and the first statement says a zoonotic disease is a disease that can be transmitted naturally from vertebrate animals into humans and vice versa. So they can infect each other. This is a correct statement because that's what we mean by zoonosis. A class of diseases that jump between or they get transmitted between human and animals. So statement 1 is correct about zoonosis. Some very interesting examples could be your bird flu, COVID pandemic itself. We can talk about the Marburg virus. We can talk about the tomato flu. So many of such disorders that broke in just the last few years. Coming to the second statement, it talks about how rabies, Zika and anthrax are all viral zoonotic infections. Agreed. Rabies and Zika are associated with viral infections but not anthrax. The reason is rabies is often associated with animal bites. That's true. In fact, much earlier, rabies was also referred to as hydrophobia. Why? Because of a classic symptom that develops in people who contract this disorder. Often it is attributed to scratch or bite through a rabid or an infected animal. It causes many debilitating symptoms, including brain tissue inflammation, also encephalitis in human beings. The sad part is that every year thousands of people succumb to rabies. This when rabies is preventable. Now there are two sets of vaccines or two classes of vaccines that can prevent rabies, and these are referred to as one, the nerve tissue vaccine, and the other class is known as cell culture vaccine. And despite the preventive measures, yet people succumb to it. Now coming to Zika. Zika is again a viral infection that is attributed to mosquito bites, specifically a class of mosquito that's referred to as Aedes aegypti. This is quite a common name because most often it happens in tropical regions. But Zika is not the only infection that Aedes aegypti causes. In fact, this mosquito, this carrier mosquito which harbors the virus, is also associated with diseases like dengue, chikungunya, yellow fever. And Zika is particularly of concern because if it happens to bite a pregnant woman, then the child born is most often suffering from some or the other congenital disability. So that's why these are highly fatalistic disorders. Now coming to anthrax. Anthrax is not a viral zoonotic problem because anthrax is attributed to a class of bacteria. That's right, anthrax is often caused by a spore-forming gram-positive rod bacteria. It's often known as Bacilli anthracis. And hence the second statement is not correct. Coming to the third statement, it says PREZOOD is an international initiative to prevent emergence of zoonotic diseases and pandemics. This is a correct statement. If you talk about PREZOOD, let's remember that PREZOOD came as an intergovernmental decision that was taken with regards to One Health initiative. Now during COVID pandemic, a lot of you might have heard about this word One Health initiative. The governments and the NGOs, veterinarians and doctors the world over came and they were brainstorming about how to coordinate animal health with human health. Because ever since zoonotics have come up, you cannot segregate veterinary sciences from medical sciences for human beings. There has to be a coordinated policy for both, because disease in one class of organisms is leading into pandemics and epidemics into the other, and hence the World Health Initiative. Now, in this regard, back in 2021, there was a conference that was held led by France. The conference was known as One Planet Summit on Biodiversity. In this summit, the decision was taken to launch the PREZOD as a preventive protocol, a preventive strategy to curb the menace of zoonotic disorders. C is 3 is correct, which means that here C will be the right answer. 1 and the 3 statements only are valid. Now let's hop back to the third question of the day. The 2 statements are talking about nuclear power. The first says Kundankulam or Kudankulam nuclear power plant is the largest nuclear power station in India, situated in Kerala. So although the Kudankulam nuclear power plant is indeed the largest nuclear power plant in India, but it's not situated in Kerala. It is in fact situated in Tamil Nadu. So therefore the first statement here is invalid. Talking about the second statement, it says liquid sodium is used as a coolant in nuclear reactors to absorb the energy released from the reaction, which means to limit the level of heat that is developed as a part of the reaction. This is a valid statement. In fact, liquid sodium is a very, very prominent nuclear reactor coolant. So here, just the second statement is valid, making B your correct answer. Once again, why was the question taken up for analysis today? The reason is an article in the Hindu newspaper pertaining to international relations, that how Russia and India are once again ambitiously giving a new hit to the bilateral cooperation in the field of nuclear power. They both have decided to strengthen bilateral nuclear ties, and Russia, once again, through its investment state-of-the-art know-how, will contribute into better nuclear capacity for India. And hence the question. Now coming back to the fourth question of today, it says, consider the following statements. The first statement talks about fisheries, fish production. And it says, Kerala is the largest fish producing state in India, followed by West Bengal and Gujarat. Now before we come and analyze the statement, it's good to know why did we pick this up today for discussion. Once again, an article from the PIB, it was there in Hindu and the Indian Express as well. It says that the cabinet government, or the cabinet ministry, has approved a yojana, a scheme that's referred to as Pradhan Mantri, that's Prime Minister's Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Saha Yojana, which means it is a scheme that is meant to boost fisheries and farmer productivity in India. It is a central government scheme, and the purpose is to invest heavily in the fishery sector, in the MSME sector, and to create an investment of more than 6,000 crore rupees in just the coming 4 years to promote more professional fishery production in India, better export, better quality domestic market supply. In that light, the question and the first statement here is invalid, because Kerala is not the largest fish producing state. In fact, that happens to be Andhra Pradesh. Yes, to be followed by West Bengal and then Gujarat. So hence statement 1 can be removed. Second statement says agriculture, fisheries and public health. They come under the state list, which is to be ruled upon, or which is to be governed under the state government's authority, and this comes under the 7th schedule of the Constitution, the schedule which decides power allocation in terms of which subject is to be adjudicated by which government, union, state or both. That's the concurrent. So the second statement here is valid, which means again B will be the valid answer. On this note, let's also remember that if you talk in the global scenario, then it's China that's actually the largest fish producing country across the world. Let's also remember that back in 2023 September, the Indian government also proudly announced that India was at the 3rd spot in terms of global fish production. In fact, India was at that point of time contributing 8% of total global fish production. So in that light here, B becomes the valid answer for us. And now let's proceed with today's PYQ that's been taken from 2019 UPSC Prelims. The question says, what is CAS9 protein that is often mentioned in the news? Well, we are living in the era of, let's see, a molecular scissor used in targeted gene editing, or is it B, a biosensor used in the accurate detection of pathogens in patients, or is it C, a gene that makes plants more pest resistant, or D, a herbicidal substance synthesized in genetically modified crops? So here, whenever we talk about the CAS9, we know that we are referring to CRISPR technology. A is the valid answer. Talking about the CAS, as I said, we are living in a world of gene editing. In fact, in the realm of biotechnology, this is the next big thing. So gene editing is the tool which enables scientists, microbiologists, to actually be very precise. And through the precision, they can now edit. They can make specific corrections and alterations to desired gene in the human body. Now, the target is to modify DNA of living organism for some specific purpose, particularly maybe just to avoid passing on a defective gene from one organism into its offspring. So it could mean a tremendous success in the field of achieving a world where we can reduce inherited or genetic diseases. Now, having said that, this CAS9 is basically something that stands for clustered, regulatory, interspersed, or interspaced, short, palindromic, repeats. This CAS9 protein, or as we call it, CRISPR, this was borrowed after a long observation of bacterial immune system. Yes, that is what triggered the idea of genome editing in humans. Now, let us not forget that back in 2020, there were 2 women Nobel Prize laureates. Both of them got Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020. What was the reason? The reason was the discovery of CRISPR scissor methodology. Now, these people I'm talking about are Jennifer Doudna, as well as Emmanuel Charpentier. Now, both these ladies were associated with discovering the CRISPR, and hence the Nobel Prize for them. And A is your valid answer. On that note, now let's just check which fact of the day are we going to talk about. We are going to talk about a unique initiative of the central government known as Kusum Yojana. What does Kusum stand for? Kusum stands for Kisan Urja. The word Urja means energy, power. Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan. So it translates into an initiative by the government that is trying to promote stronger, better, cheaper, healthier energy sources for farmers in India. What does it mean? What does it do? So the PM Kusum was launched much earlier, actually in 2019, and recently the government, just a few days back, has done a review on it as well. The purpose behind the mission were 3. 1. To promote clean energy, renewable energy in India. 2. Better irrigation in Indian agriculture. 3. Enhanced or improved sources of income for the farmers. How? Now, all 3 targets were to be achieved by one single mission, Kusum Yojana, because under Kusum Yojana, the government decided to install solar pumps in agriculture areas which are not cultivated. In rural India, the purpose is most of the farmers, when they need irrigation water for their crops, they still depend on conventional fuels such as kerosene, petrol, or any other solid fuel pump for generating power so as to get water, pump out water. But that's not an environmentally sensitive thing to do. The carbon footprint is very, very high here. At the same time, it's expensive also for the farmers. So here under Kusum scheme, the government is trying to go off-grid. When we go off-grid, we are moving from a conventional source of energy to a non-conventional green and renewable source of energy until we achieve something that's known as grid parity. When you achieve grid parity, you are in a situation that your new renewable source of energy is ready now to give you equal output, equal sustainability and income, just like your conventional source of fuel. So in that case here, the farmers are now planning to install these solar pumps across rural India with the help of the government. How will this help? Not only will these pumps run on solar energy, which means consistent water provision for the farmers. It is based on solar energy, so there is no emission involved. It's carbon neutral. Third, the government has also said that whatever surplus power will be remaining with the farmers, this power can once again be sold back to the government. In a way, it is kind of providing a subsidy, a minimum support price help, that you generate extra power and then you sell it back to us. In this model, the farmer is in a win-win situation, and hence comes this scheme here. Now, who can actually start installing these pumps? These pumps can be installed by individual farmers who have a certain acre of land area. It can be done by panchayat, it can be done by self-help groups, it can be done by cooperatives who can apply and get these solar pumps installed. Apart from that, this entire scheme has been divided into 3 broad components. Now, the component A talks about installing grid-connected, ground-mounted solar power plants. This will have a capacity of about 10 gigawatts. Talking about the component B, it says 1.75 million standalone solar pumps will be provided in rural areas to farmers, standalone or through a cooperative or through a panchayat. Component C, to solarize 1 million grid connections of agriculture pumps. Now, this would mean a situation where we are not only tackling the climate problem, not only exploring and expanding the solar energy sector, but also we are enhancing income support to Indian farmers. And on that note, now I take your leave on today's quiz segment. Hope you enjoyed it. See you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.